Welcome to the For the Love of the Game podcast with Johnny K. This is episode 22, Rink Tour Update and Hockey Tryouts. In this episode, John gives us an update on his drink, Stay Social. Then we tour around a few hockey rinks as John talks about them. Finally, some life lessons learned from hockey tryout evaluations. Let's get into it.
For the love of the game, we rise, we play.
Episode 22. Welcome back, folks. I'm John Colius from the For the Love of the Game podcast. Lots to cover today. Thanks for getting back to the platform here. I really appreciate the comments, the feedback, and everything in between. Our podcast is brought to you by Stay Social, Feel Good. It's canned water. Cans come from Montreal. The water comes from a natural spring, Carleton Place on the outskirts of Ottawa. And it is a brand that I created. This is year 2, and I'm having a blast with it. Stay Social, Feel Good. And that's where we're going to start off today on the episode. I'm going to give you a few updates on Stay Social and how things are going. I made the trip to Carleton Place this past month, took the van, and I was pleasantly surprised. The van was able to take 2 skids and loaded it up with a forklift. We made sure that the weight was right on every vehicle. There's always a sticker within the door there, and the calculations added up, loaded the skids, and we made her back to Durham safely. A little pit stop on the way, though. It was a little white-knuckled for sure. I had a pickup for a customer at Athletic Knit in Toronto, and I couldn't get there, so I had to go downtown to a location where to pick it up. One of the employees was nice enough to say, hey, I'll bring it home. Can you just pick it up here? But I'm pulling into Toronto about 6 p.m., and it was unreal. The Don Valley Parkway, I was 2 and 10, 3,000 cans of water in the back, and I have to drive down to Dundas Street. For me, it was like being in Times Square in New York. Cars all over the place. Luckily, I found a place to park and get the package, but that was quite an ordeal. But we made it home safely, and it is the focus here. Stay social. What I'm trying to do here, folks, this is year 2, and I'm taking what I learned last year from the project, and what I want to do here for this coming summer is I'm putting together a route. Grey Bruce area. I'm putting together a few golf courses, a couple variety stores, some pubs, and not a huge account list. We're talking 12 to 18, and I'm going to go old school. I'm going to check in once a month. I'm going to see how it's selling. I'm going to stock them up if they need it. I'm going to provide them with some POS. I have some posters that we recreated. I have some cool coasters too. So when you go into a pub, we'll throw you down a coaster. It says Stay Social, and then it says drinkstaysocial.com. And that domain, that takes you right to my For the Love of the Game website. I remember maybe 3 years ago, I went and I registered drinkstaysocial.com, because sometimes when you just use Stay Social, that could be anything, but the drink part should narrow it down for sure.
Stay social. Feel good. Check out drinkstaysocial.com.
Yeah, but that's the key. I kind of took I have a few buddies that have been in the potato chip business, and that's the way they kind of do their routes. They're always checking up on their customers. Obviously, they're going in a lot more than I am with my product being new. But, they check in, what's selling. They do a bit of merchandising, and I'm hoping that these businesses on this route, they'll let me go in there and, see if they need more, and maybe put a few more signs up, ask how it's going, what the customer feedback has been. That's really important. And, so that's the plan for the summer, and then we'll reevaluate. Trying to get as many cases out there as possible, and, and see how it goes. And the goal for me, too, is at the end of the summer, if I go into a business and, hey, you know what, Johnny, just didn't work, I'll take the product back, and I'll send them a credit. And it's no good sitting in their fridge and not selling. It's better for me to get it back and place it somewhere else. And being a small business right now, I could have 200 cases in the storage downstairs, or I could have them in the coolers out there and just getting a feel. So that is the plan for the Stay Social for sure. The why is still big for me. I feel like, anyone I talk to or any research I've done, the younger generation growing up, they're not drinking as much alcohol as maybe my generation did. It's the highest trending industry right now, non-alcoholic beverages. You can check that out, but that is true. And there's a lot of different canned products, water, non-alcoholic beer, and they're all getting on board because they know that that's just what society's looking for these days. And so I'm part of it with the Stay Social and the water. I always remember my best buddy's dad. And here's an individual, I never heard the term before, but he calls a spade a spade. And he was always never afraid to share his opinion with us. And I remember being like 18, 19 years old, and we'd be at the kitchen table or at his place, having a few beers. And he just made the comment to me one day that I'll never forget. He goes, "You guys drink to get drunk." And I looked him right in the eye and I said, "Isn't that the point? Like, isn't that why you drink, is to get drunk and have a good time and laugh and joke? And that's the social part." Because that's all I've watched growing up. Every commercial I see on TV, the beer commercials, everyone's having a good time. They're on the beach. They're playing volleyball. Tarps off. Not me. Tarp stays on. But that's the whole thing, is just what happens when you have a few beers. It's a good time. And I remember, looking back now, I was talking to my buddy about it. I said, "You remember when your dad said that?" And we laughed about it. But yeah, you guys drink to get drunk. Yeah, you actually think I like the taste of beer? No, I just want to go out and have fun. And it's funny because now I talk to my sons about that, and we talk about, having a few beers, being responsible. And I remember Charlie and I were going back and forth one night having, he goes, "Dad, I just like, I'm with my friends and we're, maybe want to have a couple of beers, but it's the social part." I said, "Yeah, I get it. But as you grow older, I talk about the fork in the road, right? There's a fork in the road that you're going to have to take sometime. And, it's up to you if you want, alcohol to be a big part of your future, And I've always said, a lot of my friends, I'm always cautious when I talk about that because I never want to offend people that drink alcohol. It's not a bad thing. It's not against the law. It just affects everyone differently. And I can only talk about my experience and why I don't drink. I haven't drank since the Durham Homecoming 2022. And it wasn't that something happened. I didn't get a DUI. I didn't start a fight. I didn't do anything. I just didn't feel good for a month after homecoming. And that was the click for me. And I remember I went and got some blood work. And then the nurse called like 2 weeks later, and she goes, "Well, the doctor said this, that, you're fine." But he said, "Lay off the booze." And that's when I kind of like, lay off the booze. I drink once a year. And when I drink, it's usually 30 beers or whatever it is, and then I'm done. But the homecoming example for me was I couldn't shake it for like a month. And I didn't realize why. I was like, "I wonder what's wrong with me." But it wasn't until the doctor called and mentioned the booze. And I'm like, I only drank once. I did blood work 2 weeks later. It's still in my system. And isn't it a coincidence that I've been like down in the dumps and depressed for a whole month? So that's when I put it together. And I'm like, yeah, that's a side effect. And then when I think about my younger years, when I'd be out, having a party, going out, and then the next day, Sunday, that's always like the still funny day. You're having breakfast. You're still laughing about what you did the night before. It's not till Monday, Tuesday, you're like, why am I dragging my ass? And then it's just repeat, rinse and repeat. And you don't realize, like, why am I depressed? I didn't put it together till almost 45 years old. It took a while, folks. But that's where I like the option of Stay Social. Stay social. I'm really going to lean into feeling good. And that's, for me, I still want to be social. I want to be in the dressing room after old timers. I want to have a can of my water. It just feels like it includes me in the mix. That's the part, that's the feels for me. I could have a water and I can laugh at guys' jokes. We can talk about hockey. We can talk about business. And it's like a social camaraderie. You have it in your hand, and I just feel like no one's going to question me why I'm not drinking. It looks like a beer. And, on the other side, it's environmentally friendly. It's reducing plastics. We can recycle these. That's the other part of it. But the why for me is really important. And I really feel like over time, you'll see more and more product like this because mental health has been on the forefront for a long time. I know Bell Let's Talk, I remember maybe 15 years ago on Twitter, that was like, hey, retweet 5 cents. And I remember I used to think about how people looked at depression and mental health. And that would be like, I referred to it as people going to the doctor's office and just whispering that I don't feel good. I don't know what's wrong. And you felt shame because you were depressed. Right now, I'm so happy that there are so many other support for mental health. We talk about it now. I can talk about it to my kids. I'm always asking them, are you good? I ask them, are you good? And then I drive them crazy. Why wouldn't it be good? And then all that type of stuff. That's a whole parenting thing. But I'm always asking my boys if they're good. I'm always asking my friends if they're good. And that's the whole mental health angle. But back to the Stay Social. That is the why for me. And that's why I'm going to continue with it. And just slow and steady. The younger Johnny K would have had dreams of forklifts and tractor trailers and Stay Social and all over the place. I'm not there, and I don't want to be. Just like my For the Love of the Game brand, slow and steady, a small growth, and just to get the can in people's hands and see what they think, and we'll go from there. So that's been the occurrences of Stay Social, and that has been progressing. We'll keep you updated on that.
Stay social. Feel good. Check out drinkstaysocial.com.
The Great Canadian Rink Tour. How about that? We've been getting into rinks, and we've had a good month. I'll give you the update on the rinks I've traveled to. The first one, the Brampton Memorial, I would say the last 3 years, that is one of the most requested rinks. I tried to get in there last year, but it was locked up, and I've now found out that it's a full-time lacrosse rink. When I went in there and I saw the grass, I'm like, oh, they must have just pulled the ice out, but it's full-time lacrosse, and it was unbelievable. You want to talk about a time capsule. Going into that rink, you felt like you were in the mid-60s, and just the structure, the wood beams. I walked on the floor. If you haven't checked out the video, have a look. It was the most liked rink that I've had in a long time. Almost 4,000 likes, and the comments just blew the doors off. And every comment was like, I played lacrosse there, hockey. I asked in the video what it would be like to play in a full house in this rink. But the memories that just kind of poured out of that rink was unbelievable. It just a good rink with lots of comments. And I was surprised on just, people elaborate on there and, their memories. And it's what the rink tour is all about. So that made me feel good for sure. I went to Dundas. I love that rink. It's kind of tucked in, just almost like you have to look for the rink. It's tucked away, doesn't have too much parking, but it was the JL Grightmire Arena. The first time I was in that rink, my buddy Jeff McMillan played for the Dundas Real McCoys. They won the Allen Cup, and I watched the round-robin game there. And they won it that season. I watched Jeff on TSN at home on the Sunday. That was fun, but I hadn't been in there since, but beautiful rink. They just finished cleaning the ice, really bright. The upgrades from Hockeyville in 2010 helped that facility for sure. But that was a good little visit. Teen Ranch on the outskirts of Orangeville on Highway 10. That's a rink that I've always driven by, and I'm always wondered, what's it like in there? Like, what's going on in there? Finally, I pulled in, and really cool. Lots of wood, beams, ceilings. The scan is really cool. And one of the comments, or a lot of the comments, was like, hey, thanks for posting this, because I've always wondered what it looks like in there. And, the driveway is about 1.5 kilometers long. You find the rink, you walk in the middle of the day, no one was in there. I just got some good shots, and the rink was beautiful. The other rink in Orangeville, the Tony Rose Memorial Sports Complex, Sports Center, mind you. The memory for me there, I did a coach's clinic a couple of years ago for lacrosse, and we went and watched a Junior A game. It was a hot night, but Junior A hockey in that rink, good crowd, really cool. But what I remember is the 91 All-Ontario Final, the Orangeville Crushers and the Hanover Barons. A side note on the Orangeville Crushers, good buddy of mine who passed away, Mike Morris. And people from the Orangeville area will know Mike Morris. He's an Irishman, or Scottish, or not British, but he had an accent, and he was a great guy, great friend to me, great mentor. But he was the trainer for that team. And I remember watching that final series. That was a 91. My hockey team, the Bantam Blues, coached by Andy Grant Jr., we just captured the All-Ontario that year in 91. So we were coming off a high, and at the same time, we were watching the Barons storm through the provincial finals, and they played Orangeville, of all teams, in the final. Barons win the first 3 games, and they played those games back and forth at the Tony Rose in the Hanover Coliseum. And then Orangeville storms back, and then they had the Game 7 in Hanover. But that's the first thing I think about when I think of the Tony Rose. Game 7, fun fact for me, the Hanover Coliseum, beautiful rink. The Queen on the far end. The lights were like the fluorescent lights, like a light switch. Back in the day, usually when you turn the lights on, they take forever to light up. In the Hanover Coliseum, flick a switch, they all light up. They turn them off from Canada. But what I remember the most about that Game 7, the late Tony Wilson from the Durham area, played for the Mount Forest Patriots, played for the Hanover Barons, played for the Owen Sound Greys. His job in Game 7 was to stop LITT, L-I-T-T, number 14. And the late Jim Nixon Sr., the coach, that was Tony Wilson's job. You have to shadow him. You follow him all over the ice. And he did. And the Hanover Barons won Game 7. And that was their first All-Ontario championship in 91. And 2025 was their second. So that's a memory from the Tony Rose. On the way home from Ottawa, Carleton Place, 3,000 cans of water in the back. I pull into a little community called Norwood on Highway 7. My first rink east of Toronto, and it's the Asphodel Norwood Community Center. Really cool rink. Bright blues, kind of that 70s feel. Really cool. They had a pair of greens, and they're from Maple Leaf Gardens. I didn't see the little plate to read Maple Leaf Gardens. I'm assuming they were from Maple Leaf Gardens. Positive. 2 greens in the corner. That was really cool. A mini stick little rink inside the rink, and it's right up in the viewing area. So, parents can watch the game on the ice, and they could send their little kids with their mini sticks, and they could learn how to muck in the corners, finish checks, and learn how to play on the big ice. But that rink in Norwood was really cool. Where else did I go? I went to the Albert McCormick Community Center. And this is a funny story because I've been there before. I've been there in the summer. My son Charlie plays lacrosse. And he plays the Kitchener Kodiaks in that rink, the Albert McCormick. So in my head, I had Kitchener. So Johnny K takes the video, some cool sight lines, and then I usually record them like 2 days later, 3 days later. So I record it, and in the recording I say, hey, I'm in Kitchener, Ontario at the Albert McCormick Arena, blah, blah, blah. Later in the video I mentioned, residents of Kitchener and Waterloo, can you tell me about this rink? And then that was it. I posted it, and what I didn't catch is the Albert McCormick Community Center is in Waterloo. And this is good life lesson for me because sometimes when I post things, I don't check on them in a couple days. And I choke them, we got some good views, lots of comments. And one comment, it was funny. This guy goes, "Hey, buddy, buy a map. You're in Waterloo, not Kitchener." And I was like, "Oh, no. Yeah, he's right. No, it's right. I'm not in Kitchener." Oh, wow. Why would I think that? Yeah. And then the old Johnny K, he would have been like, I probably would have erased that video right away. And I said, and re-recorded it and tried to be perfect. But it's 2 days and bunch of views, bunch of comments. And I'm like, you know what? Own it. So I commented, "Hey, I'm geographically challenged. My bad." But it was interesting. And this is good for me with, on social media. Not everyone's going to have a nice post, right? And I have to learn to deal with that. That's just life. That's just society. There's some people that would rather be right than kind, and they might want to torch you, which is fine. There wasn't really really harsh ones, but there was ones like, "Hey, dude, you're in Waterloo." Okay, sorry. Yes, you're right. But 85% of the comments were about the rink, the memories. I've reffed here before. My kids played lacrosse here, lots of hockey. It's a sauna in the summertime. I think they used to have lights in the ceiling. They've not lights, windows. And then the 1 year Charlie was there, it had to be 100 degrees. Hot. They had the fans in the dressing room. They had the cold towels. And but anyways, the Albert McCormick in Waterloo reminded me how passionate people are about their hometown rinks. Crazy. I love it, though. That's what it's all about, the Great Canadian Rink Tour. If you go through my TikTok or my Instagram or Facebook and check out those posts, read the comments. They're all about, I scored a game-winning goal here. We lost a championship here. I coached here. I watched my grandkids here. But they're all like good little stories, and I'm glad that people share those comments. But the whole gist of it all is people are so passionate about their hometown rinks. So that's why I'm very positive about the Great Canadian Rink Tour journey. We were able to spread out a bit. I was in Winnipeg. I was in Flin Flon, Manitoba. Fun fact, the Bombers are in Summerside, PEI right now. Flin Flon Bombers, they're playing in the Centennial Cup. And we're going to keep an eye on them. But, I want to go east. I want to go west. And it's going to take me 30 plus years. But I love having a goal that has a lot of landing strip because I got to get there. But I'm going to continue with the Great Canadian Rink Tour. But that's the number one thing I learned about that Albert McCormick post. Proud of myself that I didn't erase it. And I took the heat and I commented back and I said, my bad, my apologies, my mistakes. And just went from there. And then what I thought was another rink that we've had so many comments on is the Galt. I posted that and I commented that this rink is the oldest continuous running hockey rink. The oldest rink. And I posted that video 2023. Then it came up again on my memories. So I posted it again, but I re-recorded it and I talked about it's been debated about the Galt being the oldest continuous rink in the world. And can you give me some clarity? In the comments on there, it went from people talked about other rinks. No, this rink is the oldest. And then it talked about Galt. I think I said Cambridge. No, you're not in Cambridge. You're in Galt. And then they talked about Galt, Preston, Cambridge. Then they talked about the year was this, and these all formed in communities. And I live down the street, and it's Galt. But that's a fun one to look at. Go look at the comments there. But that could be a whole podcast in itself. I thought of my buddy Andy Clark. Andy Clark and I played football for the John Diefenbaker High School team, both standouts. No, I wasn't a standout. I think Andy was a standout for sure. But JDSS football graduate, him and I, buddy of mine, he's in the hockey circles here. He has his own podcast, Hockey Talk, if you haven't had a chance to listen to him. But he does really good job in investigating reporting. And I called him and I said, Clarky, I have an idea for a podcast, the Galt. And we talked about it for a bit. So I'm hoping sometime this summer that we can connect and we could, read some of the comments and kind of like Mythbusters. You know what I mean? Do the research. Maybe take a trip to the Galt and just look in the archives, or just get as much information as possible, because people are really passionate. Everyone's passionate about their hometown rink. So the Great Canadian Rink Tour is trending nicely. I'm enjoying it, and thanks for the support and watching it and everything. Thank you so much.
Stay social. Feel good. Check out drinkstaysocial.com.
We're going to go to shift gears a little bit. I had an opportunity, good friend of mine, Steve Barfoot. I watched his team play in the provincials, U18. He's the head coach for the Walkerton Capitals. I coached with Steve 2 years with the Hanover Barons. Neil Simpson was the head coach. Gino, Steve, and I were assistants. Got to know him there. We're excellent friends. We're leaning on each other for hockey talk, baseball talk, and everything in between. But I went down and watched one of his games there, and they ended up winning the provincials, U18. They're OWHA champions. So congratulations, ladies, and coaching staff and parents for putting in the work. Some girls have graduated. Hopefully they continue on to keep playing hockey. Welcome to the Carmen Corbasson Community Center in Mississauga, Ontario. This is today's feature on the Great Canadian Rink Tour. I'm Johnny K from For the Love of the Game, and this is a stop we made today, and I'm glad we did. It's a 2-for-1, folks. You can enjoy the rink, you can share a memory, and also you can take in some good hockey. It's OWHA Championship Weekend, Ontario Women's Hockey Association Provincials, folks. That's exciting times, and if you're playing this late in the season, you know you've done a good job. Took this game in. It was a nail-biter, and I want to throw out a congratulations to my good buddy Steve Barfoot. He's head coach of the U18 Double B Walkerton Capitals. I just heard the news. They're champions. Congratulations, Steve, once again to you and your entire coaching staff, all the parents that made this possible, and, of course, all you young ladies. Enjoy this one. Memories for a lifetime. A week later, actually not a week later, Steve wins the U18 Provincial Championship for U18 Double B on the Sunday. And then on Monday, his new job, he's the head coach for the U15 Saugeen Maitland Lightning. Tryouts are in Howick. So Steve asked me to come help evaluate. I have never evaluated before, and it was cool. Not cool as in it's a lot harder than it looks. So I've been the player getting evaluated. I've been the player getting evaluated. I've been the parent sweating it out in the stands. And then I've been the evaluator. So I get there. Steve did a really good job of, he put together 5 or 6 evaluators. I was partnered up with a buddy of mine, Paul Pegolo. First met Paul when I played Pee Wee in Kincardine. He played in Walkerton. And then we played against each other when I moved to Durham. He played for Walkerton and Bantam. And then we played Junior C against each other. And we reminisced about that. Also, he'd come in and get his skate sharpened in a Johnny K Sports. Get in, bring in a couple pairs to skate. And an hour and a half later, he left because we were shooting the breeze. But I was partnered up with Paul. And really good life lesson for me, because we have a clipboard. And we have all these names. And we have to make some comments. But a couple times, I'm a talker, gift of the gab. I'll be talking to Paul about something that happened 30 years ago. Do you remember this or whatever? So within the evaluation, couple breaks. So we talk, we kind of break character from evaluating. I'm shooting the breeze. And then, I think I was laughing or something about something. And I kind of glanced, and we were kind of in the middle of the crowd. And I saw a few parents looking at me. It wasn't a scowl, but it was like a look. And right then I'm like, holy cow. Okay, dial in here. Remember what it was like to be a parent, right? You're watching Charlie and Jack out there. They score a goal. You're like, okay, great. You look up at the evaluators. They're not looking. My kid just scored. Why aren't you looking? Then they might make a mistake, bad pass or fall. Then it seems like they're writing things down. None of this is true. My brain works in mysterious ways, but I'm sure all parents are just so nervous about the evaluation process. And then you got some guy in the stand laughing about something. What could he be laughing at possibly? So that was the life lesson for me. Tone it in. This is serious. through the lobby. You can cut the tension with a knife. Everyone's there. They're trying to make a team. It's stressful. I've been there. And, probably the easiest one of all of it is the player, right? You just got to go out there. You got to work hard. You have to have good body language. And just do what you do. Do your best. Parents, it's hard. It's hard. It's stressful. And then the evaluators, all you can do for the coaches, and Steve was really open. This is what he's looking for. But he didn't. He just told us to write what we thought. He didn't say, I think he just, here's a couple of guys that know hockey. You've watched a lot of hockey. Tell me what you think. It wasn't until the last game we evaluated. He said, hey, you know what? Narrowed it down to these 3 or 4. Can you really look at some strengths, some weaknesses, and areas to improve? And that's what we did. But at the end of the day, when it comes to evaluating, my opinion is it comes down to the coach's opinion, right? I know back in the day when this evaluating came to fruition a lot more, it was almost like a checklist, and then it's there you go, pick your team. But I'm under the notion that it's the coach's team, and he has to pick it. So usually your top 6, say just talking forwards, 9 forwards, your top 6, you know who they are. And maybe, your first couple on the third line, but it's that last pick, your last D, your second last D. A lot of other things come into play, right? Skill is important, obviously. You need skill to play, but your body language, your role, do you know your role? Will you accept your role? And, when you have your role, will you improve to get a better role? Because sometimes you can give a player a role and they might just say, this is what I am, and that's what I do. But I just heard Kevin Bietz on Hockey Night in Canada talk about that. And he talked about knowing your role, but knowing that you want to improve to become a bigger part and a bigger role. So I really like that. And that's what I thought about when I was evaluating too. So those last few picks, it's always up to the coach. I haven't connected back with Steve on who we ended up picking or how it went, but the whole process for me was fun. And, catching up with Paul Pegolo was good, reminiscing, but the whole process about, being an evaluator, what to look for, how stressful it is, and just a reminder too, to when you're there, you're dialed in, and not to disrespect the process. And, early on, like I said, when it didn't seem like we were full, and it was probably a 5-minute period, but it was just a glance. And now I know if I'm ever put in a position like that, it's clipboard, we're dialed in, this is serious, because I've been there and I know how much hockey means to parents, and their sons and daughters are trying out and they just want to get the tryout over with, and then they want to get on with their summer because the hockey season starts soon enough. So that was a huge lesson for me. And I'm glad I did it, and I hope I'm able to do it again. So we covered Stay Social. We covered the Great Canadian Rink Tour. And we talked a little bit about evaluating hockey and all the things that are important when we're evaluating, and just, you just want your kid to have fun. Charlie just finished some tryouts here, and I'd like to say Charlie's fine. Charlie's good. It's his dad that I think I've improved. The dad watching tryouts from the crowd a year ago today, I'm a lot better today than I was last year. Really stressful last year. Just the whole thing. I remember during the week, Charlie gets cut on the Wednesday. We go to a new center on the Thursday. We sign there on the Friday. Just a whirlwind. But no regrets. Good friend of mine, Ryan Buchanan. I met him. He's from Moncton. Big ball guy. Great hockey guy. We got to know each other really good. But he keeps track. He's an Excel form guy. He's the guy that I'd love to be, but I'm not. I don't even know how to work Excel. But he always likes to keep track of ice times and where we're going, and I love that. I love seeing that. So he always kept me up to date. So when I say no regrets for Charlie, he was on the ice 97 times with the U16 Surge. And car rides, good times, lots of laughs. There was never a time that Charlie said, Dad, I don't want to go. They were on the ice 4 or 5 times a week. And, good coaching, good life lessons. Met some new friends. That's what hockey's all about, sports, right? He might not bump into these guys for 2 or 3 years, but hey, we played together, connection, stay together. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on the tail end of my evaluating story, is just going through it with Charlie. And, all said and done. Lacrosse season starting. I'm going to get to some rinks too for that, and I'm looking forward to it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's episode 22. I'm John Coleus. You've listened to the For the Love of the Game podcast, and I hope you come back next month. Cheers. Thanks.
For the love of the game, we